Coming to you live from deep in the heart of Texas, it's Midweek Marketing with your host, Timothy Black. Each week, Tim will be diving into what it takes to market successfully online, SEO, design, affiliate marketing, and more. And now, here's your host, Timothy Black.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Midweek Marketing. This is your host, Timothy Black, and this week we're going to talk about domains and hosting. But first, if you've not done so yet, please go subscribe to the podcast over at iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or Google Play or whatever your favorite podcastery place is. So, this week we are going to be talking about buying domains and also where to host them. So not to be condescending or pedantic, but I will explain a little bit about, some people don't even understand what hosting is. And I want you to think about this as you help clients and or you are setting up your own business. It always drives me crazy because people jump into this and they spend too much money on so many things. People worry about their logos and they worry about their business cards and they worry about buying 14 domain names of all varying types to protect their idea. And Ryan Deiss talks about this. He hates business cards, not for what they are, but they just worry about they worry about the wrong thing. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go print up 1,000 business cards. Like, no, let's see if your idea works. Let's see if you can get like one client and then maybe worry about getting a logo done and letterheads and business cards and all that stuff. So we're going to find out. And what inspired me was a client today had all this stuff going on. She was paying way too much money for her hosting and URLs and all this stuff. And it's not her fault. I mean, everybody does this. And it was great because I went in there and turned what was about to be a $600 bill into about $60. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to go in there and think you need all this stuff, and you really don't. So let me just kind of tell you where we're coming from. A domain, a URL is the whatever.com or .net, heaven forbid, or .org. Hosting is the thing you have to buy. Buying the URL is kind of like buying the address. This is an imperfect analogy, but follow me. Buying the URL is kind of like buying your address, and your website is kind of like the house. You have to build that house. And then hosting is the land. You've got to put it somewhere. So GoDaddy and HostGator and Bluehost and all these one-on-one and all these millions of other places, they're your hosting. So what they are is, again, I'm not trying to talk down to you if you already know this, but a lot of people don't. They've got essentially servers, which are just computers with giant hard drives on them, and everybody's site lives on there, and then you just access those sites from your computer, and that's kind of what you're paying for every month. So they have all these safe, theoretically secure servers where everybody just kind of hosts their data. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the data transfer and for them to host it and keep it up all the time and yada, yada, yada. Theoretically you could host your own site, but that's a whole other issue. There's no reason to do that. And who I use and recommend, and this is probably going to come as a surprise, I use GoDaddy. I've used them and a sister company for almost close to 15 years, over 10 years. Never had an issue. There's 24-hour service, and I'm not going to give you any kind of affiliate link, or I'm not trying to plug them, but they are solid. They have 24-hour service. We've had like one issue since we started Merchant in Black. I think we've had one big issue a couple of years ago, and that's because there was a big WordPress attack, and that's not their fault. And they were actually on it, and they helped us quite a bit, 2 o'clock in the morning, making phone calls, customers freaking out. It's just, that's going to happen, and it's not the fault of GoDaddy or HostGator. I'm not a huge fan of HostGator, even though they're here in Houston. I like supporting local to an extent, but I just have never... Anyway, I don't want to get too far into it, but GoDaddy's always been fine. I use a sister company there called Domains Priced Right. Perfectly good. So here's what I want you to avoid. That's kind of what domain and hosting is. Here's what people do. They go out and they think, hey, I just thought of ABC siding and repair.com. And oh my gosh, I have to go get this URL right away. That's fine. Just go by the .com. For the love of Pete, please don't go by the net and the info and the org and all this other stuff, because somebody might steal your amazing idea and name. Just please don't. Spend the $10-12 and get it get it registered, and then later on, when you're ready, go buy the hosting. That's the way to go. Generally, if you know you or your client, they know you're ready to build the website, then buy the hosting. And here's a trick: almost all the time, at any given point, GoDaddy has a free URL when you buy the hosting. And where I'm going with that is it's about $5 a month for basic hosting. And it's probably what 95% of people need. That's probably enough, is just basic economy hosting. It's around $5 a month. You buy it for a year for $60, and 9 times out of 10, you get a URL for free with it. So you save your $10. So that's it. You buy your hosting, $60, get your free URL, attach it, and you're good to go. That works for 95% of people. So again, I cannot stress. Oh, and here's the other thing. When you go and check out, because they're really good salespeople and it's a really good funnel, if you want to learn how to market, this is good because you talk about a back end. A 99 cent on sale URL domain register, or usually it's $10 or $11, and then you go and check out, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you need to have this privately registered, and that's going to be another $20." And oh, you know what? You need to get this for 2 years. It always defaults for 2 years instead of 1, so that doubles your price right there. And you probably need an SSL. You need to have this secure. So here's another $79. And do you need email with this? And how about special fancy website WordPress hosting? Here's another. And by the time you check out, a buddy of mine did this. I was ready to strangle him. He spent like $250 checking out. I'm like, dude, that should have cost you $10. I cannot believe you bought all this BS. A startup on his own. You're blowing $300 out the gate and you don't even have your first client. I'm like, you drive me crazy. I understand, man. I'll happily spend all your money for you and I'll charge you, but I can't do it. You've got to start lean. And secondarily, if you do stuff like what I did for my client today, where she goes like, I don't even know what we're paying for. We're paying $40 a month for this and this. They ding me every year, and $600. I was like, dude, let me just get on the phone. And these guys at GoDaddy, and again, they're great. They're good at what they do. They're really good, and 9 times out of 10, they're really smart, and they'll help you through with technical issues. But everybody that works there in service and tech support is also a salesperson. And when they talk you into re-upping for a year or 2 years or adding this, they're getting commission on that. So you just got to push back on these people a little bit and go, no, I don't need a year of that, dude. No, don't re-up it for 3 years. No, I don't need an SSL, because they're just trying to attach. It's great marketing, but it is a classic, let's add this to the cart. And before you know it, you spent all this money, and it's really good. And that's what my buddy did. He's just killing me on a pool cleaning service. He hadn't really got it off the ground yet. I'm like, oh. Anyway, so I want you to be aware of that. GoDaddy is perfectly fine. Go register it for $10. Change it to 1 year instead of 2 years, because it always defaults to 2, and ignore all the crap. And at the end of it, it should be about $11, $10.18, $11.25, whatever it is. If it's more than that, you've made a mistake. Okay. If you do get hosting, bear with me on this. Okay. You're probably going to want a WordPress site. That works for 9 out of 10 clients as well. WordPress works great. It's great for SEO. They're fairly easy to build. That's all we use in our company. I will outsource to other people if they need something particularly special, like a Magento site. I won't go too far into that, but it's like really sophisticated and very good e-commerce sites that cost, 10, 15, 20 grand to put together, because you're putting in all these SKUs. Like, I work with a cigar shop and they've got, thousands and thousands of different products that they have to sell. Well, that is a huge, complicated thing to do. I wouldn't do it in WordPress. I actually referred them to somebody else or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, WordPress is just fine. So with that in mind, here's what you need to know. Don't get the special fancy, we have a WordPress hosting package and they charge you more for that. It's got all this stuff on it. Just don't do it. Just get the regular hosting economy, $60-ish a year. If you haven't bought the URL, you get the URL for free. And then it should default. This is huge. Keep this in mind. Write this down. It should default. You either have Linux hosting or Windows hosting. You want Linux. It works. Just trust me. You want Linux hosting, not Windows. At the end of it, you've either spent $60 for a URL plus hosting for a year, or you spent $10 and just gotten your URL. So that is kind of an overview of how to register a URL, a domain for a client or yourself. If you're starting off and starting a little marketing company, like I suggest you do, a consulting company, just go buy, whatever your name is, Bob's, whatever, consulting, $10, or spend the $60 and, have somebody help you install or set up a decent little landing page or WordPress site, and you're good to go. You look more sophisticated than well, I'm not saying you're not sophisticated, but you'll look bigger than you are, and like a real business. Yeah. And again, no upsells, okay? All that stuff can be added later. And then something else we do, we host a lot of sites. We host client sites. We've got several different businesses. At some point, you can bump up from the $5 a month. I think that's called economy, and then there's deluxe, and then premium, or something like that. There's 3 levels. When you move to that middle one, I think you can host infinite sites on that. And when you go to the fancy one, then it's that plus some other stuff. So I think we spend $15 a month and host like 70 sites. We've never had an issue. So, but the thing is, where I was going with that is you can always upgrade. You can always downgrade. If you're tired of posting all this stuff, you only need one, then downgrade it. They're super cool about that stuff. If you do need to add email or Office 365, this is a whole other conversation. Mail exchange, they are great. You can pick them up. You can pick up the phone at 2 a.m. and call them, and there's always somebody there that knows what they're doing 9 times out of 10. There's a few people that are just starting. They're not super knowledgeable yet, but man, upgrade or downgrade at any point. But for the love of Pete, for you and or your clients, keep it lean. Okay, keep it lean at the beginning. Spend your $10 to $60. Don't spend hundreds of dollars. Don't believe that you need to have it privately registered or SSL. All that stuff, if you need it, if you do decide you need it, can be added later. Okay, that's my warning to you. That's my recommendation to you. GoDaddy, perfectly fine. Buy one domain. Don't, for the love of God, for the love of Pete, buy the net and the org and the info and the blah, blah, blah. There's always a new one. Ignore that stuff. Nobody cares. And get a decent.com. And, I won't go too far into that. But yeah, if you've got, we'll leave it at that. I was going to talk about keyword loaded domains, but that's not as important as it used to be. EMD, exact match domains. Don't worry about that. Set it up. And that's how you do it. You do it for your clients. You get on the phone for them on their behalf. Kind of turn off all the stuff they don't need. You are like a hero. I walked out of a client's office today like a hero. I mean, I spent $60. I re-upped 4 of her sites. I shut off all this yearly billing. We turned it down to monthly billing because it keeps it lean. I turned off this other crazy hosting she didn't need because she got sold. You don't know until you know. So that's my advice to you. And that is it for this episode 12 of Midweek Marketing. As always, if you got value from this, share it with people who might dig it. And subscribe on iTunes. Go over to midweekmarketing.com. Sign up for our list. I'll send you over a little PDF of all these crazy internet marketing terms. And check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/midweekmarketing. And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Midweek Marketing. Come back every Tuesday and Thursday for new episodes. And be sure to subscribe at iTunes and sign up at midweekmarketing.com to get exclusive content and tips. And check us out at facebook.com/midweekmarketing.